Guess who became the Triple Crown winner? It's only been Jerry Rice, Sterling Sharp. Is he hiding? Where is he? Oh, Agent 89, my dog Cooper Kupp, and now Jamarr Chase, Cincinnati Bengal. Welcome to the Triple Crown community. It's only a few of us. Not everyone can do it. There are some who are wishing and hoping that they can accomplish it, but they have not yet. And until that happens, see, this is an exclusive club right in here. They don't even know, people don't even know.
I didn't even know that existed.
It doesn't, because it's only a few of us.
I do want to ask you, before we get to Jamarr and we break down his season, just take me back to 2005. There's only now been 6 of you to ever do this in the history of the league. During the closing weeks, are you thinking about it? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because you know how rare it is. Is it on your mind during the week or Sundays?
I was not aware of it until about halfway through the season. The way the NFL was covered back then is nothing like anytime someone does anything. There's already stats up letting you know he's on pace. Pro Football Focus wasn't part of the league at that time, or at least not in the way its statistical things are used today. Next gen stats were not existed. They weren't even a thought, right?
Yeah.
It's so cool to see now where you can kind of project and talk about where guys can possibly be so early.
I was just curious what the way the second half of the season was, because, I mean, the humble old James is sitting here going, I remember looking at the newspaper in high school going, I'm leading the league in homers. Like, last couple games, I'm swinging for the fences every single at bat because I'm trying to make sure I get the record, right? And this is high school. So what are you doing? What's up?
Let me get this right.
Yeah.
Did you just make this about you when you were in high school playing a different sport?
No, the connection is this.
Did you sidetrack that one?
No, I didn't sidetrack. This is how you as a person who's a journalist and asks questions tries to be relatable to their subject. Steve Smith Sr. I'm talking about how embarrassing trying to break a high school home run record is, and I'm swinging for the fences, and it affects me in the last couple games. You're trying to win the Triple Crown. In the NFL, there's got to be a thing on your shoulders those last couple games where you're worried you're trying to do too much. You know what I mean? Because it's so rare.
The last couple of weeks,
yeah,
the football is huge, bro. It looks like a soccer ball, a very colorful one. The ability to see everything, watch the defense, look at the secondary, you're just in a freaking zone. And I'm talking about roll out of bed, almost tear your ACL and pop up, and it's like, and boom, the cereal drops in your hand at the same time. You are just on one. There is nothing you can do wrong professionally when you're playing the game, because you're just seeing it. You're so locked in. You just get in a groove that you're be able to see things and slow things down, bro. It's pretty dope, man. It's pretty fun.
I dig that. So let's spin it to Jamarr, because I wanted to throw this out there, because I think when you mentioned about just the ball feels this big, right? And you have the ability to you're in that zone. Everything kind of seems to be kind of going your way. Balls are catchable. You're able to do something with it after the catch, which I want to get to. But to me, the jump that Jamarr made, if you talk to people in Cincinnati, is He played every wide receiver position now, Steve. Like, he's moving in the slot. He's moving all over the place. He saw that was something that his good buddy Justin Jefferson was able to do with Kevin O'Connell in that Vikings offense, where Kevin lines him up all over the place. And you saw Jamarr take ownership, at least I was told, in the offseason, even though he wasn't attending, but not practicing in training camp, which maybe makes us even more insane, that he didn't practice at all leading into the season. And week 1 just starts to go and wins the Triple Crown. He's probably going to lobby not to practice at all during training camp this next year. Going, look what I did when I didn't practice. I could do it. But Burrow talked about it, Steve, like the ownership he took of operating out of the slot. And I think he had maybe more yards out of the slot than anybody. He was outstanding there, and he didn't spend all of his time there. And so the way they moved him around and the way that he did put in the work, I was told, with a really good position coach who we both know, and have the ability to kind of learn every single spot and learn so much more of the offense. He thinks the mental side as well, Steve, is a reason why he took the jump. Do you see any connection with any of the things I'm saying, either moving around or just knowing the offense better from what he had this past offseason, the work he put in? Do those things, did they equate, I guess, to some of this success?
That explains and fills in the blank of a lot of questions you have, or how and what. People want to know how a guy makes that jump and what did he do. Jamar Chase lining up at multiple positions, it does give you a favorable matchup in the beginning.
Okay.
When he's first doing it. And that's why you saw a stronger finish, because it's not necessarily the favorable matchups in the end. It starts to become he learned more, which means going in deeper detail for me is at Z, when I'm running these routes, I'm working against a corner on the left, well, technically as a player on my right side. Yeah. And so when a corner plays sides, just like a tackle, there's different muscle memories that you have to deal with. And so a guy on the right side is playing more to his strength of what his dominant hand is or what he does or doesn't do. And then you go on the slot and you're playing a guy who maybe is ambidextrous or a guy who's more well-balanced, like a nickel. And so you are learning how to attack every area of that defender to where now the defender, he's now at a bigger disadvantage because you don't have any blind spots now. I can run a curl from the right, from the slot, from a condensed formation. So now a guy who's supposed to be +4, now because he's played enough, he can even cheat and condense himself to run that route because he's run that route from all areas of the field. So now you can condense it and create to where you could play slot, where they call it bunch or cluster or buster or yin or yang. And so that buster gives you an opportunity that you're at the 3-point, and now you could be in the wake of someone. You can have these natural picks instead of the penalties being called. And so it opens up the playbook because now you have the most complete wide receiver on the field with very little deficiencies. And so it just makes a lot of sense to me that they've created and built a monster. But more than anything, Jamar Chase has taken ownership of how he wants to do things. I would imagine he may not have that triple crown again next year, but what Pandora's box you've opened is his ability to see the field in a way that will prolong his career, who can have that potential if he chooses to be like a Joey Galloway, a Jerry Rice, Derek Mason, these receivers who, despite size or athleticism, are able to play such a long period of time because they know the game inside out. They figured it out, and even though their athleticism has decreased, their intelligence, the FBI, the football intelligence, has expanded to something that's unfathomable that you can't ever lose.
I love that. And two things off of that. One, what Steve mentioned for everybody listening with guys playing sides, that's the way most defenses do it, Steve, with their corners, right? Your corners usually stay on certain sides. So that's kind of to take that to another spot so everybody knows. And then the other part is, I love what you said in terms of taking ownership. And I do find it fascinating because, remember, he didn't practice in training camp, but he stood right there next to his position coach, with Walter's a really good one, and he learned the verbiage, what's going on with every other receiver, what's going on with the offense as a whole, because oftentimes, right, Steve, in camp, you're focused on what you are doing specifically. And what you have
you're trying to maintain your job.
Exactly. So he had a chance to kind of take a macro look at it, right, and have the ability to kind of see the offense as a whole. And some people there think that might have actually benefited him a little bit. The other part, I hinted on it earlier, and I wanted to ask you about this, because you were great at this too, yards after the catch. And I think this is a big part of winning this award, honestly, in being able to do something with the football once it gets into your hands. And so I looked up some of this stuff with Jamarr this past year. Led the NFL in yak with 787 yards after the catch, which is outstanding considering he had, 1708.
1,700, yep.
Yeah.
So that's a 1,300-yard receiving, right? 1,300 yards receiving, or 1280 or
12 and
1270. Yeah, 12 and 73 receiving, meaning if he would have just caught the ball and fell down like some of these guys are doing, fall down and get up.
That's your biggest thing.
And
I'm talking about, man, it drives Steve nuts.
Bro, it's a pet peeve.
Down.
It's like, it's like one of your kids smacking at the dinner table. When I see a cat get in the middle of the field, I just put my head down.
Yeah. So Jamar's been the opposite of that this year, right? And you look at the 787 after the catch. What really stands out to me is 281 yards in NFL high after contact among
contact.
So after
that means he's not going
down on him, he's not going
he's still
down.
Going.
And so I've talked to a number of DBs over the years that have gone against Jamarr. They're like, it's like a borderline running back type of player once the ball gets in his hands, due to size, due to speed, due to his effort to get downfield, all those things. So you were really, I remember that season specifically, in your whole career, yak's been a big deal. What makes Jamarr so good at getting these yards that I'm kind of breaking down here after the catch? And I think that's just another added layer to why he won this award and why we could call him the best receiver in football. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Now, with the new year beginning, we're here to remind you that life is more and maybe more complex than just resolutions that fade in February. It's about picking up the pen, becoming the author of your own life. BetterHelp is completely online, so it's therapy that is both convenient and affordable, and serving more than 5 million people worldwide. So, write your story with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/89 and you'll get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/89.
I would go on record and say I believe he is the best receiver in football.
Yeah.
And when you have a quarterback that is dependent on you to really get the ball out with timing, he gets the ball out quick as well. So that's where it helps him. Justin Jefferson, he isn't anything to just kind of push aside.
No.
However, you've seen, though, with Addison emergence, that's taken away a little bit because Justin Jefferson is a volume guy. He's a guy that has to get his 10 to 12 targets because that's how his game has evolved. That's not saying that he can't, but at some point we all get used to operating whichever way is consistent on how you're doing it. So if you're a high volume guy where it's getting 15 to 12 targets, you may only catch 8 or 9 because of, they're throwing it to you and, the way defenses are and all that stuff. Then he's a high volume guy, which means that Jamarr doesn't have those games where he's that high volume guy. He's a guy that's gotten, if you look, he's gotten dirty real fast. I mean, the first 2 plays, it's like 25, 30 yards. Yeah. And so that creates such a disadvantage of that corner. That corner and that defensive coordinator is telling you now that we got to switch this up immediately. You can't get beat deep. And all of a sudden, he runs a quick out and turns it upfield, gets 25 yards against the young rookie corner with Pittsburgh. And you saw by the second quarter, bro, he was on pace for 100 yards, 115, because you saw how when he was getting the ball, it wasn't 3rd and 5, he got 3rd and 7. It was 3rd and 5. He got a 25, 27-yard game.
Yeah.
And so that puts the defense and the coordinator in the corner on alert. And those guys are getting out of there so fast. It's like running screens. Like when you can get active that quick, it's like running ball screens for Steph Curry. It's like, there he goes. There he goes. And it doesn't take much to get him going.
I love it. So I got to ask you before we finish up talking about Jamarr and what an unbelievable season. It's a shame that him and Joe Burrow and company are not playing in the postseason, but you got to win your games, specifically in September, Zach Taylor. So you got to find a way to start out a little bit better. But mid-season about, Steve? Jamarr does kind of a touchdown celebration that reminded a lot of us about a certain other Triple Crown winner's touchdown celebration.
Yeah.
Do you think at that point he knew, like, I'm going out, like, I got a good chance? Now we're rounding this back into the beginning of the conversation of he knew the stats and he's going, well, Steve won a Triple Crown.
At that point, it's like, hey, I can get there. And I didn't realize that I saw it, and, you know, I didn't really look at it that way. I was just kind of like, my man is just doing his thing. And so I was like, oh, maybe he's having a child. I don't know. He's, you know, it was pretty cool. So I found out this weekend that that's what it was, and I read that, and I was like, man, I got to shout him out. That was pretty dope. But, man, Jamarr is just a fun dude to watch. I love the way he goes about his business as well. You don't really hear a lot about him. He doesn't talk a lot at all. He just kind of goes about his business and
he likes it,
does his thing. No, I'm saying out in the open. Out in the open, you don't really hear a lot. Oh, I know he be talking sideways to folks.
Yeah, he's good at it.
Yeah. So, but no, that's pretty cool, man.
That's awesome. Awesome season. Great season. And in Steve Smith's eyes, best receiver in football.
Should be. I think so.